You are now listening to Sanity at the Movies, Swing Time Edition. That's right, folks. We're talking about one of the classic Hollywood studio movies, one of the classic musicals. We're talking about Astaire and Rogers. We're talking about one of the top 28 family movies that you should watch with your family per Sanity at the Movies podcast. If you ever listen to that episode. And yeah, who's talking about it? You might be wondering. Well, I'll tell you. I'm Nathan, your humble and obedient, elegant, tuxedo-wearing, top hat host putting on the Ritz for you today. And we've got one of the most glamorous men ever to set foot upon planet Earth.
Somehow recording with you guys.
Yes, somehow.
How did that happen?
He's graced us.
You asked. Well, I lost a bet.
Yes. Mr. Not So Lucky himself, Benjamin Sulzer.
Trade in that lucky quarter for a lucky penny.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah, we're like a lucky Megan. I already did. Got her.
Don't try and jam her into a cigarette machine.
She's the lucky one then, huh?
She is the lucky one, really. Yes, that's right.
Lucky Megan. Well, Ben, speaking of glamour, speaking of elegance, speaking of sophistication and wit, why don't you introduce a man who evinces and encapsulates all those qualities, the third person on this podcast?
Pastor Jake Dancing Feet Menzel.
Yes, Dancing Feet is my middle name.
So we call you, hey, Dancing Feet.
Hey, Tap Shoes, get over here.
Yep.
That is how we talk. We are all 1930s fast talking gangsters. Hey, guys, why are we talking about Swing Time?
Because that's the movie that we decided to watch, Nathan.
It is. Well, we're doing In the Heights later this month, actually.
We decided it was time for a comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were also looking at the fact that we were going to want to do In the Heights because everybody's going to be watching it.
Right.
So we picked a musical comedy.
Yes. We have watched Hamilton on your Disney Plus, and we have listened to the Hamilton soundtrack, and we enjoy that Lin-Manuel Miranda's stuff. And so, obviously, the rest of the world does too. So, we have to watch In the Heights and review it for this very podcast, which we will be doing. But we thought, why not contrast it with something? And we decided to contrast it with about the most classic, iconic, old thing that you could possibly get. I mean, I guess we could have gone Sound of Music.
Could have gone Sound of Music. Could have gone West Side Story. Could have gone any number of Singing in the Rain.
Right. And I assume we'll talk about all of those
things
on this very podcast because I love all those movies and would love to talk about them. We'll have to talk about West Side Story because Spielberg's doing his remake
West Side Story,
later this year. But obviously, that would be interesting to go all the way back to something that's a little bit more embryonic, a little bit an older style, something that is sort of bridging the world of the old Broadway reviews and theater with...
Well, in that sense, I think that Miranda is going to be doing something much more like that than we've seen in a long time.
Yes.
We have La La Land, which is... I don't know that people still like musicals, so let's have A-list actors go to school and learn how to dance. And I think Miranda's going to be pulling in, it's just going to be Broadway people.
Right. Which is great.
Yeah, it's great. It's exciting. Somebody's got their notifications turned on or something like that.
I don't know who that is. It might have been me. Okay. Yeah. I mean, so if people don't know anything about musicals, the really old musical form, I don't know if anybody watched... What's that movie that we watched for this very podcast? Yankee Doodle Dandy.
Yeah.
So if you remember the kind of musicals that George Cohen was writing, where it was the dumbest plot, but it was just so that we could sing all these rousing patriotic George Cohen. And basically it's an excuse for people to do dances and for there to be spectacle. That's Broadway theater. And you had people like P.G. Wodehouse and people like George Gershwin and names that you might have heard of that would be writing these light as air kind of frothy things that barely even, oftentimes didn't even have a plot. It was just a musical review. really it's Rogers and Hammerstein who are famous for just saying we're going to do full plot with things like Sound of Music and Oklahoma. Those are telling stories famously with a lot of sexual tension. Actually, that's what Hammerstein and Rogers wanted to bring to it, is let's still tell fully developed, mature love stories that aren't just about, I need to hoof it to the theater so I can do my latest number with my best guy. But Astaire and these musicals with Ginger Rogers and the movie musicals that they did is kind of standing as something
somewhere
a little bit
in the middle,
in between. Yeah. It's not full plot. You're not really supposed to take the story of this movie all that seriously. It's basically an excuse for them to sing some pretty songs and do some spectacular dances
and have silly banter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and nothing's gonna hammer that home more than it's just like, well, we've done all our numbers, and so
it's crap, I guess we have to resolve this plot.
Time for the happy ending. And so the guy, we're gonna steal the pants of the groom, and he's gonna come down and be like, well, I guess you got the best of me. I guess you get to marry the girl now.
You're still lucky.
And I'm gonna sing you a love song. It's just like, right, because that wouldn't end in a knockdown, drag out fight in real life. Nobody is even pretending. Right?
Yeah, no, it's like we've just given up on the plot at this point. Nobody cares. The plot all was resolved in one spectacular dance number, the Never Gonna Dance number, which we'll talk about. But that's the only thing that matters.
Yeah.
But it's really entertaining. The in-between stuff is pretty entertaining. And Swing Time, the reason that it's the best remembered is because the in-between stuff, I think, is the most entertaining. You watch some of the things, and the in-between stuff can be pretty creaky in some of these old movies.
Yeah, but just waiting for the next number. But they brought some really good color in with, and I had their names and I already forgot them.
Pops.
But yeah, Pops and the secretary lady.
Yeah.
Really great.
Yeah, no.
And
they're great. And
weird. We should talk about that.
Yeah, well, quirky in the right ways.
Yeah, they're very quirky.
To make them interesting.
Not what you expect from the sidekicks. And I have a theory about that, but we'll get to it. Yeah, and then you also just have, I don't know, you have spectacular set design, and you just have a lot of money spent on making this movie pretty, and they have snow, which...
A lot of effort and elbow grease into... I mean, we're obviously, if you've watched this movie, we're going to have to spend some time talking about Bojangles of Harlem.
Yes, we will. We will litigate, as I like to say, Bojangles of Harlem.
My favorite... It used to be my favorite thing that you used to say litigate all the time, but now it's that you sneer every time you say it.
Right.
That's my favorite thing, is that
Jake,
you mock yourself and sneer every time.
Who brought the sneer first? If I am Joker, then you made me Batman.
That's fair.
Wow.
Oh, man. One of these days. Oh, I guess I'm the one that's making the noises, folks. I am so
I
sorry.
thought so.
Yes.
Mabel, that's the secretary.
I couldn't remember whether that was the actress's name or the...
No, the actress is Helen Broderick.
Helen Broderick. Yes. And yeah, they're fantastic. I love all the supporting characters. I love the dance instructor guy.
He's awesome. He's hilarious.
That guy just played so many effete butlers, and he just had a line in obnoxious, stuffy British people coded as perhaps not as straight as oh, you want to talk to Penny?
Well, I'm sure that she'll be right along.
You're still fired. This movie has more, for me, genuine laughs, and I've seen this movie a bunch, but I go back and I watch it. There's so many movies where I'm like, as someone who dabbles in writing comedic stuff, I can appreciate what they're doing, but it doesn't still actually hit now. But I understand why it hit then. This movie has any number of places that actually just still make me laugh.
Yeah.
The tailor is hilarious with the cuffs.
No cuffs.
The guy really cares about his job. And I don't know, just
I think somebody like that would.
Yeah, that's what's great, is it doesn't really feel that.
Part of what this movie balances, if you watch other Astaire Rogers films, is they don't try to make Astaire the color of the comedy. Mm-hmm. They let him be a straight man
right for
the entire movie, and they do it in a way that never ever. Maybe in that first scene with his pants and all that stuff. But outside of that, never really undermines the dignity and elegance of Fred Astaire.
No, he's just allowed to be what you would kind of expect him to be if you hadn't watched these movies. Which actually, the first Astaire and Rogers movie, which nobody remembers anymore because it's not that great, because it's actually somebody else's movie. Astaire and Rogers were just playing what are their names? The Mabel and
Pop.
Yeah, they're playing the color. But their dances and their chemistry was so off the charts that immediately they got their own movie afterwards. Because it's like the movie, it's called Flying Down to Rio. It actually ends on Astaire and Rogers because you could tell even the editor was like, we don't care about the main couple. We don't care about anything. We just care about this burning sun at the center of the galaxy that is the chemistry between these two supporting.
It's like if Philadelphia Story had ended on Stewart and
right. If they had just if you didn't have Grant and Hepburn, but you had a couple nobodies.
If Grant and Hepburn were played by actually what was it, Bing Crosby and
what's her face, Grace Kelly, then you would have wanted to end on Jimmy Stewart and Ruth Hussey. Yeah, it's just like they're our stars. This is what the story's about, and. We had to course correct. Our editor is going to course correct by giving them as much material and stealing as much material from cutting down the scenes with our ostensible leads, which is what happens in Flying Down to Rio. It's pretty fascinating. But yeah, we're going to talk about Swing Time. So we'll talk about it all. We'll litigate it all. We'll litigate Bojangles of Harlem. There's going to be so much litigation flying back and forward. All kinds of
litigation.
Yeah. On this podcast.
Yeah, this is a movie for the kinds of people that were grateful we introduced them to Philadelphia Story. This is another one for you.
Yeah,
I think
so. Absolutely. Well, let me give a little bit of context on Fred Astaire. The famous thing that you have to say about Fred Astaire, and it's probably apocryphal, but supposedly a screen test, the first screen test, when he was screen tested, the note came back: can't sing, can't act, balding, can dance a little. So there, I've said the apocryphal story. Yeah. In any case, the test was actually disappointing because Astaire is not your typical leading man.
Right.
He's not that good looking in and of himself.
He's not that great of a singer.
He's not that great of a singer. He's not that great of an actor. What he is a spectacular dancer. And to rewind a little bit, that's how he came up. He's just some guy born to parents.
Yes.
In Nebraska.
What was so all that kind of sophistication and elegance and the accent where it says dance instead of dance, like that's all put on. But the interesting thing is when you read these stories about these showbiz types that came up through vaudeville and through Broadway, oftentimes there's an overbearing mother figure. Minnie Marks famously made the Marx Brothers what they were. And Astaire, same thing. His dad's just some salesman. His mom is like, I'm going to live through my children and I'm going to have my children. You will often, behind many celebrities, particularly these kind of hardworking, old-timey celebrities, you will find an overbearing mother. And so Astaire's mom decided he's going to be a star. And Astaire's dad's business went under. This is in the early 1900s. And so they moved to Hollywood or maybe they moved to New York. I don't remember. They moved to one of the big hubs, and Astaire worked his way up as a hoofer with his sister, Adele. And so Astaire learned to be a dancer, never being able to really, or even thinking to do romantic dances because his sister was his partner. Mm-hmm. And his sister was famously the person that brought all the wit and the buoyancy and the talent. Like, you went to see Adele Astaire, actually. She was the big draw. But Fred slowly but surely became the better dancer. He was really interested in the technique and in perfecting his craft. He obviously, as we'll talk about with Bojangles, he drew from a lot of influences, including a lot of black tap dancers and people that would have been popular.
And he had a coach that was, I forgot his name. I looked this up when I watched this a couple months ago.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I got down this rabbit trail, and I'm sure you've prepped for all of this, but I watched the little TCM 3-minute intro where they talked about Bojangles of Harlem being a tribute to Bojangles.
Yeah, his name was Bill Bojangles Robinson, and you can still see him.
But if you do the research, or if you do the research that I did, it was as much a tribute to his, or more a tribute to his actual
his mentor. Yeah.
than it was to. So the TCM thing is all like, Bill Robinson never dressed like that and never did the outrageous things. He always tried to be whatever. But if you look it up, it's like actually Astaire is wearing the costume that was his mentor's final performance.
That makes sense.
The same costume.
The one thing is, so I suppose we'll get to it, but the one thing that you can tell about Bojangles is Astaire meant it respectfully. He's not wearing the big white lips and stuff, the things that people did to the really demeaning stuff that minstrel shows would often do.
Yeah, there are a couple of key things that anybody will point out, no matter what they say about the performance itself. Everybody agrees that it was meant sincerely and respectfully.
Yeah, because
I think it was miscalculated, but it was well intentioned.
Yeah, it was well intentioned. And it often was. The other famous one that Astaire does in blackface is one that Bing Crosby also does in blackface in Holiday Inn, where they sing the number Abraham. And of course, Crosby loved all the black crooners and people that he'd come up with and just wanted to do a tribute to them. So he slapped on some blackface and sang in that style as a tribute, and it doesn't really hold up very well. Right. But I mean, it holds up as a fantastic number. It doesn't hold up politically or... Anyway, we can talk more about Bojangles. But the point is, Astaire, he's just one of those once-in-a-lifetime talent, like the Beatles, like whoever you want to compare it to, Steve Jobs. He's one of those people that drew from all the influences and put them all together. Yeah, and you can compare
him to Elvis or the Beatles or anybody that drew on innovative black artists.
But managed to repackage them.
Repackage it and popularize it.
Popularize it. And unlike... say Elvis, where you can find YouTube video of a black guy actually doing it better. Astaire is the pinnacle of dance. There is nobody better in the 20th century. I think I can say, I mean, I'm not a dancer and I'm not a dance expert. I don't want to pretend to be, but you just can't name a better popular dancer than Fred Astaire. Not Gene Kelly, and this isn't just personal taste. This is, you look at what dance people say and you look at what people that were influenced by Astaire. You look at the Michael Jacksons and the people like other people that you would think of as...
Yeah, Michael Jackson is going to model himself on Astaire, not the people that Astaire modeled himself on.
Right.
And push dance forward and in new directions and whatever.
Yeah, I mean, the famous thing about Astaire is that he never repeated a step. So you watch Gene Kelly, you can start to see him do some of the same things if you're tuned into what dance does. You watch Fred Astaire over the years through his different movies into the 50s and 60s, you will never see him. I mean, obviously tap dance has a certain kind of thing, but what you won't see is him just repeat the same moves. Like he always wanted to innovate and push things forward. You can also just look for as a non-dance person, you can look for his relationship to rhythm. It's complicated, right? You can find dancers who are very lockstep, who are very just hitting the beats. Astaire is always changing the tempo. He's always getting slow and then getting fast and then doing something interesting, being offbeat intentionally. Just watch his bad dancing in this movie when he's intentionally pretending to be a bad... You've never seen more graceful...
Bad dancing.
Bad dancing.
Yeah.
And he would always do... There's so many sequences that have lived on precisely because of the gimmickry behind them. He wasn't averse to showmanship. So you have Bojangles with the shadows. Yes. You have the famous number where he dances on the ceiling. I think that's Putting on the Ritz, which has been ruined by stupid Young Frankenstein. That's what everybody thinks Putting on the Ritz is. You have, what's the other one? My personal favorite dance on film ever committed to celluloid is the dance in Holiday Inn, the Firecracker Dance, where he has these little firecrackers that he's throwing. What are they? They're not firecrackers, but
pop.
Yeah, you throw them against the ground and they pop. So he's throwing them and then he's hitting the beat and then he's throwing them in the air and it's really spectacular. And the technical perfection of that is just like, it's really cool. It's cool that it lives on. It's cool that it got captured in a medium where we can still see it 100 years. We're going to, if all of us live a normal lifespan, we will live to see Swing Time have its 100th anniversary. Sometimes you read Victorian accounts of, she was the greatest actress that ever graced the stage. Okay. Well, cool. Great.
Okay.
Good. I believe you. That's not how Astaire was. So anyway, to pick up his story, his sister was the beauty and the wit of the act, but he was really polishing his technique. And then his sister, sometime I believe in the late 1920s, decides to marry a count or something like that. And her career is done. She just retires to go be a wife to this count. And around the same time, Astaire goes to Hollywood, does this famous screen test, which probably the can't sing, can't act, balding, can dance a little is apocryphal. But we do know that the screen test went poorly. I have a thing here, a memo from David O. Selznick, who was in charge of RKO at the time. Quote, "I am uncertain about the man, but I feel, in spite of his enormous years and bad chin line, that his charm is so tremendous that it comes through even on this wretched test." So apparently Astaire, it was a good screen test and it was a bad screen. It was a terrible screen test, but also Astaire was
There's enough je ne sais quoi there that they're willing to roll the dice.
They were willing to roll the dice. And so Astaire had to learn how to actually, you can see the evolution. Swing Time is number 6 and it's the pinnacle.
Yeah.
But you can watch the evolution of him figuring out what he wants to do with a female partner where there's romance involved. He never really wanted to be nailed down with a partner. Ginger Rogers was just somebody that was assigned to them, and then they were popular together, so they did ultimately 10 movies together. And they liked each other. It's not like there's some bitter feud behind the two of them, but Astaire always wanted to mix things up and do other things, and he didn't want to be linked such that he had to do things with Ginger Rogers. So he actually tried during their partnership to strike out on his own, failed, like the movie didn't do well, and then he went back to Rogers for a while. I think that's really all we need to know about Fred Astaire. I assume we'll talk more about what made his dancing great and stuff as we have.
I know. I read this a long time ago, and it was just interesting in a tangent way that he was a Republican and Gene Kelly was a Democrat. So one of them, I don't know that I would have expected that exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well,
he might have been conservative.
Gene Kelly feels more like the aristocrat, so you'd kind of assume that he would be the Republican, I guess. Whereas,
I don't know,
but I don't know. That's interesting. Yeah, just in terms of their personas. But this movie actually casts Astaire in a much more democratic, as we think of it, role. Usually, Astaire is just top hat, tails. He's rich. This is the first movie where they realized, oh, we're halfway through the Depression. People actually don't want to see just glitz and glamour and escapism. They want a little bit of something they can relate to. And so we have the scene where Ginger Rogers is not believed by the cop, which everybody would have. I'll protect you, ma'am. You pay me to protect you from these screwy dames, I think the cop says.
Yeah.
Everybody would have been righteously angry at that stupid cop. And Astaire he's still in top coat and tails and top hat the whole time, but supposedly he's this poor, down on his luck gambler guy who never for a second looks or acts like a poor down on his luck gambler guy, but we're trying to give it just a little bit of...
But he's only down on his luck for the one scene he needs to be, which is he's going to hilariously be losing his clothes in a game he's never played before.
With some of the worst friends in cinema history.
and it's going to mean that it's going to set up the tension between the two of them because he can't make the dance that night.
Right.
And then from then on out, he's just going to strike it rich. And it's just like, man, he's got to keep the money from coming to him somehow.
Yeah. Like, how can I make less money? The problems we all have to deal with. I guess the other thing that's worth saying, just setting up about Astaire, is he had control over his dance numbers pretty quickly because they just realized, let's get out of this guy's way. And he hated cuts. Like, he wanted to cut as little as possible. He did not like edits. He wanted you to see the whole dance, and he wanted a full body to be in the frame. You should be able to, we should never cut to my feet. We should never cut to my head. We don't want to see, it should just be, nothing should break the reality. And so most of the dance sequences, I think Never Gonna Dance, the big one in this movie, maybe there's 4 cuts altogether just that were necessary. But so he would rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse these things. And there's this awesome thing that they put together in the 90s where for some movie, I forget what it's called, in the 50s, he shot a scene and a dance number, and then they decided we don't like the costume, we don't like the set, whatever, we need to redo it. And so somebody actually put side by side the footage of him doing it on the rubbish set and the final version on the set that they used, and it's the same thing, down to the hand movements, down to the facial gestures. This stuff is all rigorously planned and rehearsed, and there is not a movement that he didn't come up with and practice 1,000 times. And famously, he would destroy his female co-stars. They just would not be able to keep up with them. He's quoted somewhere as saying, "All the girls cried. The only one that never cried was Ginger." So she was a trooper. And she's not. So I guess we could talk a little bit about. Oh, the other thing I want to say about Astaire is he introduced so many popular songs to the canon, and It's a Fine Romance, and what's the big one from this movie? Just the Way You Look Tonight.
The Oscar winner.
Yeah.
The Way You Look Tonight.
Yeah. I love his version of this song, actually. I would put it up. I actually don't love, I'm just not a big Sinatra guy, personally. But Sinatra does this fast, smooth version, and that's kind of become the standard version of that song. But I think the more plaintive kind of way that Astaire is allowed to do it for plot purposes in this movie is really sweet. And he introduced as many songs to the American songbook as Bing Crosby, as people who were more well known for their.
Yeah, I was reading a little about how people how admired he was by songwriters and actors and singers for his singing, not because he had an awesome voice like Crosby, but because he had a brilliant idea of how to make the song happen.
Yes,
like a way of expressing it, a way of understanding the lyrics. The beat goes here. When I'm performing it, it has this flavor. He just has that kind of like he can dance precisely. He could sing to give you a precise emotional effect.
Right. Well, and if you've heard some singers from that era, it's just, I'm going to belt it out. I'm going to sing the whole thing. And like Bing Crosby, like Sinatra later, what's his face? Fred Astaire is so delicate and so nuanced and tells such a story with his phraseology and with the choices that he makes.
Yeah. I've seen, you were talking about he ran all the girls into the ground in rehearsals, but that same kind of delicacy and gentleness, whatever, you see these interviews with some of the dancers who compared dancing with Gene Kelly to dancing with Fred Astaire. It's like, well, there are some things that they say that I won't say, but one of the things they'll say is that Gene Kelly is going to actually leave you bruised. He's aggressive, he's violent, he's athletic. He is the alpha who is making love to you in the dance, and Astaire's the gentleman. Right.
I think that comes across on the screen, and it's what I prefer so much about Fred Astaire. Yeah. He's much more seductive, if you want to put it that way, than just the full assault that is Gene Kelly sometimes.
Right. Huh.
And Gene Kelly is going to be much more sexually explicit, too, in the way that the women are dressed and singing in the rain and that stupid long
the green lady
sequence.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Although Ginger Rogers has a pretty intense dress in this movie.
Oh, yes.
That's pretty like... Yeah.
And they picked the shots they wanted to pick.
Oh,
they
man.
did. And yeah, I'm not going to...
the takes they wanted to pick.
I'm not going to deny
based on
that,
what they showed.
Yeah, both men are using... sex to their advantage and using it with skill, shall we say. But
let's get a dress that it looks light as air and pretty much matches the skin tone as it's going to be on screen. And then,
I'm not going to say that Fred Astaire didn't understand and use sex. I just think he used it more artistically, shall we say, than Gene Kelly.
At least less in your face aggressively.
Right. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, now I really want to watch, after we do this, I want to see Singing in the Rain and talk about it, because I haven't seen that since I was early teens, probably.
It's the perfect contrast.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll just have to talk about it.
I just remember loving Gene Kelly's dancing.
Gene Kelly's spectacular. Let's not...
he's there's a reason the question is Fred or Gene, but I think the real way to watch it is to watch Singing in the Rain first, and then turn around and watch Swing Time, because you really need, I think you need Singing in the Rain, you accept it.
Right.
You accept it as being the greatest musical of all time, or one of the top 2 or 3 great musicals of all time. And with Fred and Ginger, you accept that they were great and that they had any number of great things that they did.
Swingtime's not iconic like Singing
but it's
in the
not
Rain.
iconic. Nothing is as iconic as Swinging in the Rain. This is the name of our dance off. But yeah, you go back to Singing in the Rain and you watch it and you're like, oh yeah, this is really great. And Gene Kelly's awesome. And what's her face? Leia's mom.
What is her face?
I don't remember.
Oh,
I forgot about that. I forgot she was Leia's mom.
What is her name? She's great.
She's really great.
I cannot pull her name right now.
What's Leia's name?
Leia's
Carrie
name is
Fisher.
Fisher, but that's Debbie Reynolds.
Debbie Reynolds.
Debbie
There you
Reynolds.
go. Good job. Yeah, Debbie Reynolds, and then you've got
Donald O'Connor,
and all that stuff is just like, it's really great. And it's sort of like we've taken all the formulas that Fred and Ginger and Bing and everybody have sort of, and we've pulled it together in color.
Yeah.
And we've made the musical. But then you go after that and you go watch Swing Time. And in some ways, to me, it's like the difference between, as we talked about in our Philadelphia Story episode, it's the difference between watching Chris Hemsworth, the sexy God man, as Thor, versus dopey Humphrey Bogart having all of the sexual tension and prowess that simply by being more manly.
Yeah, he just has it. He doesn't have to act it. He's just got it. Yeah.
And then that same kind of character coming through in the Philadelphia Story, where it's like, because they're not trying to deny sexual realities and are playing with real sexual tension, because they're playing with the way men and women really are, it's just like palpable without having to ever be explicit. In Singing in the Rain has a lot of those qualities simply by being 60 years ago or whatever.
Right.
But I really think the sexual tension of Never Gonna Dance is like
off the charts.
It's insane. It's just at the top of the list of
all without being tawdry or explicit in the way. Yeah, okay, the dress, but they never quite cross the line in the way that even Singing in the Rain and some of its sequences does. It's
right.
It's more
Singing in the Rain really crosses lines comparatively,
right? And certainly anything today crosses lines.
In the Heights is going to cross lines. We haven't seen it, but it's going to cross lines
one way or another. La La Land, I'm sure, just in random ways that Emma Stone's dress goes flying up or something, probably crosses those lines. I don't remember.
Yeah, although I think they were trying to be much more Astaire and Rogers.
Yeah, and also they suck. So,
and also they just
her dress wasn't flying around that much.
That's right.
That's funny.
I actually like La La Land, but
I still haven't
I
seen
like
La
it
La
too.
Land.
But it is just like
some of the
here are two people that tried really hard to learn how to dance, making you think of people that actually could dance.
Yeah, there's a scene in that movie where it's the right moment in the movie where Fred Astaire would suddenly. It's the moment in Swing Time where he's got to prove that he actually knows how to dance in front of the gay guy. Yeah. And suddenly he just snaps into motion. You're waiting for Ryan Gosling to do that, and then he does this lame little soft shoe, and it's so disappointing. It's super lame. And you could say, well, at least Ryan Gosling can act, but honestly, I think Fred Astaire, he's for this kind of material, at least he's a good actor. He's a good singer.
Yeah,
he is the complete package. It's not that you're forgiving him things.
Yeah, he can't turn around and take a different style of role.
Right.
He can't play. He's not going to have the acting versatility that Ryan Gosling does. I give that to Gosling all day. But in this genre,
doing what he does best,
no comparison.
Yeah,
he's really great.
He's everything that you need and more.
Right.
Here's another rabbit trail. I read, maybe, do you know this, Nathan? Fred Astaire said once that Michael Jackson was like the successor.
Yeah, I've seen that.
I've seen that. Okay. Is that that's a famous thing?
Which makes sense. I mean, you look at Michael Jackson. I did not do it, but I was very tempted to pull up Smooth Criminal just in thinking about all this stuff, because it is so Astaire.
Yep.
And what's the other famous one?
Thriller?
Yeah. Just Thriller. There's so much that's Astaire about the moves in that, or Billie Jean. The thing about that, though, is that they keep cutting. I mean, I love the Thriller music video. I grew up with it, just like most people of my generation. And I don't think that you shouldn't cut, but it is spectacular to see Fred Astaire. Like, I know Michael Jackson could dance. I don't know how long Michael Jackson could dance. I know that Astaire could do a 3-minute thing like this and just do it. And there is something that's spectacular and that communicates across the ages, and seeing it. I mean, you are watching a great athletic in the same way watching old footage of Michael Jordan or something like that. Yeah. You do get some of that feeling from Astaire that I think somebody like Michael Jackson comes close to it, and no doubt was capable of things like that, but you're just never allowed to enjoy it in quite that way because...
Yeah, there are some concerts and stuff like that you can...
Yeah, you watch concert footage of Michael Jackson, you can get that effect.
Yeah.
And you watch concert footage today, not that you necessarily should, of somebody like Taylor Swift, you realize, oh, she's a great athlete in addition to her other talents. Like, she's running around and dancing the whole time. That's an athletic performance right there, and that's something. But Astaire is the gold standard, and nobody's topped it to this day, would be not just my contention, but I think a lot of people's contentions. There are people that have done more interesting things in terms of integrating cinema and dance. So, for example, Bob Fosse is a very famous choreographer. He did Chicago, and not the movie Chicago, but the original play of Chicago. And he did the movie Cabaret, and he did a number of movies in the 70s where he was really making the camera into one of the dancers and thinking about how you could edit something together for more spectacular effect.
Right. And that's the kind of thing that at least I'm hoping Into the Heights is
like a good amalgamation.
It's going to pull together the best of real Broadway dancing and some really great long single shots with actually using the camera.
Right. And there's a reason that MTV adopted that propulsive cutting style that they did, and it's not all bad. Some of it was to just hide the fact that some of these early 80s and late 90s stars weren't very talented, but some of it also is like, it's fun to cut on the beat and to capture different little snippets, especially a big dance number with,
mirrored little image on image, side by sides. And
and it's nice to sort of
play with the options.
Have Will Smith's here, but then we're going to cut to the backup dancer doing this thing, and oh, someone's getting jiggy with it over there. Not that anyone should get jiggy with it, folks. That's not what I'm saying. But there is something, there's a reason that the MTV style developed. But man, it does deny you the ability to actually enjoy the athleticism of some of these kinds of people.
Well, also cinematically speaking, it's really cool. Those sweeping long camera movements that don't cut, it's awesome. Yeah. I remember that in Singing in the Rain, too, when I saw it. I was like, oh, this is awesome movie making, which I didn't know I would get when I sat down to watch this at random.
Right.
Who knows why I didn't see it as a kid, but I didn't. So I was like, wow, the way the camera moves and captures the dancing for long stretches, and it's like awesome.
Yeah.
And it makes you appreciate people like Jackie Chan for what they do. And then I guess, guys, other filmmakers like...
Back to Ramble in the Bronx.
I know. I was wondering if we said anything about a Chan-Astaire connection. I don't know that we did.
I don't know whether we did or not, but we should have.
Because I don't know what Jackie Chan said about Astaire, but how could he not have been odd?
I would think it would have been one of his touchstones.
I mean, Jackie Chan actually has a lot of this. He has one gift in common, which is, at least if he wants to, which is to make incredibly complex and fast movements look like effortless. Jackie Chan, it's usually comedy, like, oh, I'm barely surviving, but it's like, it's still like, it's like he's not trying or something. It's like it's not quite the same as Astaire's, but there's something similar there.
Well, they're both lithe and bendy, which I like. It's one of the things that I don't like as much about Gene Kelly is that he's kind of stocky and thick, which is fine. He's great. Again, Gene Kelly's wonderful, but just as a point of comparison, I just think Fred Astaire was gifted with a body that really does interesting things. You just watch him in repose in this movie. He's just always fun to look at. If he's sitting on a chair, he kind of leans or sways, or
he is fun to look at.
He's almost like a cartoon character. He's very easy to caricature, very easy for Looney Tunes to do things with back in the day, because there's just always something a little bit off kilter about him. It doesn't look like gravity can ever quite contain Fred Astaire. If he's going to move, especially in his younger days like this, if he's going to move he'll jump across the chair. He won't just sit down. Of course, he's excited because he just got a smooch at that moment in the movie. Should we talk about Ginger Rogers a little bit?
Yeah.
So Ginger Rogers, she actually did come up as a dancer. She was just some girl who won a dancing contest, actually did the Charleston in 1925, got a movie contract, and then kind of broke out in a movie called 42nd Street and another movie called Gold Diggers of 33, which are these cynical, fast-talking Warner Brothers musicals. And Ginger Rogers very much plays the cynical, fast-talking. This is pre-Code, or just as Code was coming in, the morality code. So she's kind of the saucy wench, for lack of a better word, on the sidelines. And Ginger Rogers is very good at that kind of tough, brittle, cigarette-smoking kind of chick. And those movies are the counterpoint to what Astaire was doing, because those are Buzzley Berkeley musicals. You've seen them parodied a million times. It's the Thousand Chorus Girls with all the legs and the geometrical patterns in the swimming pool and stuff like that. You've seen Miss Piggy do it, or somewhere you've seen Buzzley Berkeley. If you've ever watched a cartoon or anything, you've seen somebody do a Buzzley Berkeley style. Any kind of, the camera's zooming past legs. if you've seen that, just thousands of rows of legs. That's Buzzley Berkeley. And he was very much choreographing with the camera, and Astaire was very much reacting against that and saying, let's choreograph with our bodies. And I think Astaire famously said, I don't want the camera to dance. I want to dance. And so Ginger Rogers actually took part in some of those kinds of musicals. That's what she broke out in. And then just got paired, like I said, as a supporting character with Astaire as a supporting character for this cheapo, I don't know if it was cheap, but for a RKO musical that wasn't them. They were just the supporting characters. And then they just lit up the screen, and everybody just realized, oh, these two are awesome together. And she had dance training. She'd won a dance contest, but she wasn't a tap dancer. She wasn't anything like the dancer that Astaire was. The famous line people always say is, Ginger did everything Fred did backwards and in high heels.
Yeah.
No, she didn't. She's nothing like the dancer that Fred Astaire was. She's just, technically, she doesn't come anywhere close. She got better, and by the time we get to Swing Time, she is doing more things. Like, she can tap dance, she can do twirls, like she can do things. Like, she's a good dancer. She's a better dancer than anybody in this room would ever be.
How do you know?
Yeah, well, besides Jake, obviously. If you've never seen Jake do a double twirl, yeah, you are, what, Dancing Shoes?
I think that's what it was, yeah.
Great and very clever dancing-related nickname that we came up with. I mean, I'm not saying she's not a spectacular dancer compared to most people. I'm just saying compared to Fred Astaire, she's nothing. But Fred Astaire is also the greatest dancer of the 20th century, maybe of all time. So that's not a slight. What she was willing to do was be cheerful and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and block out special time because these people, as I've talked about before, they're under contract. They're doing more than one movie a year. They're doing maybe different projects at a different time. So Astaire or Rogers would be over here working on this thing, but then she'd come in extra hours to work with obsessive Fred and get these things right. And so she's just a workhorse and cheerful about it and willing to do the work. That's the number one thing that makes her great. And then the second thing, so there's a guy named professor of dance named John Mueller who has a quote that sums up Rogers' ability that I think is worth reading because it says it better than I would say it off the top of my head. Rogers was outstanding among Astaire's partners, not because she was superior to others as a dancer, but because as a skilled, intuitive actress, she was cagey enough to realize that acting did not stop when dancing began. The reason so many women have fantasized about dancing with Fred Astaire is that Ginger Rogers conveyed the impression that dancing with him is the most thrilling experience imaginable, unquote. And that is totally what she brings to these movies.
That's really good.
Mm-hmm.
She's got a big smile on her face. She looks like she's having the time of her life. And she is acting. Again, she is the superior actor to Fred Astaire. She is acting against him in these scenes and doing such a good job and bringing such sexual tension and sexual chemistry to...
Well, it reminds you that Eve was made for Adam and not Adam for Eve. I mean, that's instantly what I was thinking of, like, oh, Ginger is the helper.
No, I think it's true. I think she makes him look really good.
Like she's the glory of Astaire.
Yeah,
when she's dancing with him.
She really is. She's his crown. I mean, I think that's actually It's not too far to put it that way. And when we talk about their chemistry, even when they're not dancing, so much of it is just her going soft.
Right.
And then trying to play hard to cover up how soft she's going. Like, she does that stuff so well and makes you think Fred is so much more charming and attractive than he actually, in fact, is.
Yeah.
And I think it really helps too that she's attractive, right? But she's not like Marilyn Monroe or something like that. We always say an actress is like the girl next door, but then she's more stunning than any girl next door ever that lived next to me. Ginger Rogers actually does just look like the real girl next door. Like, she's just standard pretty, if I'm allowed to make those kinds of determinations. But I think that really helps, actually. If she wildly outclassed Astaire, as some of his other partners in other movies do, it would kind of be weird and it would kind of throw off the balance. It helps that you can imagine them as supporting characters in that first movie. They both have that kind of scrappy underdog energy to them. And I think it just adds a lot.
I think she's really pretty.
I think she is too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just comparing her to Hollywood. I'm talking in
like Ingrid Bergman.
Yeah.
Or you push forward 30 years and you've got Astaire playing off Audrey Hepburn.
Right, exactly. Compared to a goddess, she's a woman. And I think you could argue that that's more attractive, actually.
I prefer a woman.
I think I probably do too. I mean, it's in a world of gingers, Ginger Rogers was the Mary Ann.
There you go.
That's funny.
That's kind of what I'm trying to say. You'll find a lot of people saying that Ginger Rogers was sadly put upon because she didn't get a cut of I think Astaire was one of the first people to actually get a cut of the profits. He got like 10% of these movies. Astaire just got a salary, oftentimes a salary that wasn't as good as, for example, Victor Moore, who plays Astaire's best friend in this movie. So, whatever. Thought that was worth throwing in there, but I don't care. And that's Astaire. I think this movie is directed by George Stevens. He's pretty famous for directing light comedies and things. He directed 2 movies on the 28 greatest family films that your family will just love. He also directed Gunga Din for RKO. He was really good at comedy and really good at this kind of light, witty. He actually helped. He did not do Philadelphia Story, but he did help Katharine Hepburn break out and helped her define her persona.
Her persona, yeah.
In a movie called Alice Adams that came a little bit earlier. And then when Hepburn united with Spencer Tracy and they did their run of famous movies, George Stevens came in and directed the first one of those and helped them find the tone for that. So he's a really great director of comedy and of sophisticated drawing room kind of stuff and sexual morals and mores and stuff. He's really good at all that stuff. Then he went to the war, photographed the war, World War II, came back and did nothing but serious drama for the rest of his life, and is famous for Shane. It's a movie a lot of people have probably seen, the Western Shane. Come back, Shane!
Nope.
And kind of seen it.
Kind of. I mean, it's
Guess I should.
It's one of the top 10 Westerns probably. He did Giant with James Dean. He did
Never seen it.
Place in the Sun with Montgomery Clift. He did he did things that people haven't seen because they were serious and boring and very socially aware and socially conscious.
Right.
But those social issues, they were the liberal causes of the 50s, not the liberal causes of now. So who cares? But his light comedies, his light throwaway work that he kind of disavowed after the war is the stuff that we still kind of remember him for. So the irony of history. I think that's all the context. Okay, so swing time. We open Fred Astaire's dancing. We weirdly don't get a number at the beginning of the movie. I think it was cut for some reason, which is kind of interesting. But what I think is interesting about this opening scene, for one thing, it's got his friends pulling one of the more vicious friend pranks that has ever happened.
Yeah.
We're just going to ruin your wedding.
It just announces that you're in a screwball world, almost like a fantasy world.
Right.
But to me, at least that's how I felt. It's like, oh, okay, the rules are different in this world.
Well, there's so many little touches. This is the George Stevens sophisticated touch, I think. that kind of signal you're not supposed to take it too seriously. There's the guy who says, local guy makes bad, and then all his friends hit him, and he like looks around for people to laugh, and then they all hit him with their hats or something like that.
Right.
I think that in and of itself is just like, yeah, we don't take any of this seriously. These characters are just putting on a show for you. It's fine.
Yeah.
Who cares? We also don't waste any time setting up Astaire. We just assume the audience. This is basically functions like a sequel. The audience already has a relationship with this actor.
Yep.
And so in this one, he's called Lucky. He gambles, I guess.
Which again is like a Jackie Chan movie.
Yes.
That's how all Jackie Chan's movies are.
Right. You don't even...
His name is probably even Jackie in the movie.
Yeah,
I mean,
generally
they're
speaking.
seriously like that.
They are like that. And Fred Astaire's... They might as well just call them Fred and Ginger, because it's just like, oh, there they are again. Doing the same thing.
Or they're just going to... Why try? Lucky and Penny. Right? Lucky Penny. I get it. But he's going to have a lucky quarter, but he's going to trade it for a lucky penny.
Right.
Oh, I see. And we're going to do, like, so magic is going to be also, and gambling is going to be a theme. So we're going to have the whole Ace of Spades trick, and our guy here, Pops, is going to have his little Ace of Spades on a string dangling on the back of his coat for half the first act, you know?
Yeah.
That's going to come into play. It's just laying it all out.
I love it. You know, I usually get bored by these kinds of throwaway plots, like in a romantic comedy, like all the contrivances and stuff. I really don't have a lot of patience for like the whole, well, why did you show up right at the right moment so you could assume that she was getting back together with her boyfriend when actually she was telling him off? And if you'd shown up 2 seconds, or if you just talked like two human beings, you'd figure it out. I don't know.
Yeah, why would you turn around and go get engaged to Ricky?
Yeah, it's so dumb.
Or Ricardo Romero, or Ricky Ricardo.
Ricky Ricardo. Yeah. I love that. I love the thanklessness of that guy's role.
Yeah, that guy's hilarious.
He's awesome.
He is
awesome.
He's like, I'm going to be Bela Lugosi, kind of, but not, but comedic, but I don't know. Watch my eyebrows as they bounce.
I don't know what it is about a movie like this. Maybe it's just my bias towards old things, but the contrivances don't bother me here. I think maybe it's that they don't. Like an Adam Sandler movie will actually spend 10 minutes telling you should care about Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore after them being idiots for the whole movie. This movie really doesn't do that. They aren't taking it any more seriously than the audience is, mostly.
Yeah, fine romance.
Yeah, we'll play the romance and the sexual tension real enough to make it all land, but like you said, Jake, once the final dance happens, we're just gonna burn through the rest of this plot.
It's all about getting to Never Gonna Dance.
Yeah,
and then all right, now we gotta have a happy ending, and everybody's just gotta sort of laugh. And these stage actors are all friends anyway in real life. They can't be expected to even act like they hate each other. So
right,
they're about to hug each other and take a bow for the curtain. So let's just drop the pretenses here.
It is a dance in Top Hat where Astaire and Rogers shake hands at the end of the dance. And I was reading Roger Ebert's review of that, and he said, you just have to assume that was the two performers shaking hands. It doesn't make sense in the plot, but it makes sense as far as Astaire and Rogers just got done doing something awesome and are taking a little bow for the audience.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed is that there's a lot of emotional nuance in the scene. In the dance or in the little comedic moment.
Yeah.
There's like a ton of nuance of the relationship and what's happening in the story. But then there's going to be no connective tissue. Oh, yeah, he was about to lose his pants, but now he has thousands of dollars in a suit and everything has changed. And that dancing instructor, who was that guy? He's gone now. He's not going to appear again in the movie. It's
we don't
just
need
like
him anymore.
Yeah, it just doesn't care about it cares about the moment. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it even cares about it in a way that's borderline psychologically realistic.
Right.
But it doesn't care about anything in between. And so it's just this, but it works. It works, but it's weird. For our sensibilities.
It's the benefit of having such a simple plot is that we always know where we're at in it. We actually don't need the connective tissue.
Right.
Maybe that's what's smart about this movie as opposed to an Adam Sandler movie. An Adam Sandler movie will waste time on the connective tissue. Where this movie is just like, it's a Astaire and Rogers movie. They're not in love now because they have to be later. So
yeah, like we needed a reason for her to be angry. He screwed up all the things, but now he's made all the money and he's got all the clothes, and she's still angry.
Right.
This is going to be
And now we're
silly.
going to show you the point where he overcomes it.
Right.
This is going to be silly. What are some better one-liners we can throw in here? Oh, yeah, make that face. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. Even the connective tissue within scenes is bad. Like, if
Yeah.
I'm romance, he's like, I can't give in. Hey, guess what, buddy? I'm going to give in now.
You know, I've changed my mind.
I've changed my mind.
Now, after I've been so careful to keep you guys apart and all this stuff, I'm just going to come over and let you know about his fiance.
Yeah, his buddy's
Absentmindedly.
like, by the way.
The world.
It's just, I love how much they don't care about maintaining any kind of plausibility about those things. But then you're right, Ben. The individual moments play, and you feel kind of invested in the characters. Like, oh no, she's mad at him.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know.
It's just a different world. It's like a different way of making movies.
Yeah. That probably is closest to something like Jackie Chan or something where it's
Yeah.
just like the individual sequences are what matter. And it just, we're going to find the easiest clothespin to hang these individual garments on, and
Yes.
nothing else matters. The first sequence is a good sequence to watch what I was talking about as far as Astaire just being a wonderful physical performer, even when he's not. The way that he throws those dice the first time and he just kind of pauses and he just hits this like almost comic book pose. Like, he's a really entertaining guy to watch. I just watch this movie again, or watch it for the first time if you haven't seen it. Just watch the way he sits in chairs. He's always leaning forward.
There's just never a moment that's not choreographed.
Yeah. Watch his body language with Ginger Rogers. He's always telling a story as to how he's interested in her. He's always kind of leaning forward or leaning back or kind of swiveling a little bit. It's just sort of somebody who just has, like Jack Nicholson, maybe, with his demonic glee that he brings to everything, has that same kind of thing, but in a much more subtle way, and it's in a completely different way. Astaire really gets that. So we have this whole awesome cuffs plot. And then I just want to throw a little bit more love to the no cuffs guy, because the no cuffs guy always makes me laugh.
I guess hilarious.
He's really funny.
Yeah.
It's a really funny little millions of no cuffs. And then I like when
Positively not
And more. Yeah, positively, not
more than no cuffs. Positively not one cuff.
And then I love, it just always cracks me up when his friend comes back for the last time, and then the guy turns and grabs another giant book and he puts it on the table, and then we just cut away. You feel him ramping up to another speech.
Yeah.
It's very modern. It's very kind of
yeah.
meta comedy, kind of almost. I don't know. It feels like the kind of thing that you don't see a lot. Although then you watch Philadelphia Story and you realize, oh, yeah, these guys were just as witty and ironic as we. I mean, we think we've got a corner on irony now, but
No.
they actually had the corner on irony and were much more sophisticated about it. Yeah, but I love the no cuffs guy. And I love, like, I think Jake was saying that Astaire doesn't have to get the laughs in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love the humility of Fred Astaire in general. I love the humility of practicing and just giving himself to technique. And I love the humility of letting all these side characters score, because it makes the in-between stuff better. And you've got the big stuff. Like, nobody's going to walk away from this movie and not say that it was Fred Astaire's movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just makes you look better.
Yep.
But so many actors don't understand that. So we meet the fiance, we meet the dad.
The dad is hilarious. That whole scene.
It's amazing. Yeah. I knew it. He's a no good dancer, and he's not worthy of my daughter. And I'm gonna. You made a couple $100 today. Well, son, I
feel like I'm losing a son here. What does he do? Yeah. It's like everyone's going crazy at the same time. It's like, wait, what just happened?
Yeah,
we even got we're gonna swap out the portraits of the grandfather.
Yes. I love that. The dog is mad at him, and the cat is
like
cat or whatever it is.
It's so weird.
It's so funny. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I could probably count on one hand the number of movies. That's probably not true, but it's like, even something like Philadelphia Story, there's a sense in which I'm, for a lot of the movie, appreciating it more than I'm actually laughing out loud, LOLing at the jokes. But this movie really makes me LOL. Like, I was watching it by myself. I didn't have a chance to watch it with my wife, so I never LOL when I'm watching anything by myself, even something that I would with other people. But this movie has like 5 or 6 belly laughs, which is awesome. So he's told off by Dad. And then we have the meet cute with Ginger Rogers and the button and the cigarette machine and the lame authority figure cop.
Pops palming the quarter.
We have quite a joke for the time with the I said look out for the great big ditch. The great big ditch. I could not believe that they got away with that, actually.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's anything to actually say about this scene that we haven't already said. I mean, the chemistry between Astaire and Rogers is off the charts. I don't know what to say about that. It's really hard to quantify what makes 2 people crackle on screen in a way that 2 other people could be doing the exact same stuff and you just wouldn't feel excited about it. Something to do with the actors actually liking each other or...
Well, and I mean, knowing that it's going to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Plays into it too. Right? Like the movie's not being coy about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so playing it straightforward is, I don't know. We know we're going to have, this is all leading to a first dance number that's full of its own kind of tension.
Mm-hmm.
So that brings its own level of excitement to it. I think.
That is fun. As you watch the performance of the guy that plays Pop, who's a really interesting sidekick.
He's a weirdo.
Yeah, he's really weird. And he has this kind of slow delivery and...
It's like sort of drunken, sort of... Yeah, it's just... Yeah, weird. It weirdly inhibited and weirdly uninhibited.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a strange combination of things.
Yeah.
And I think what's fun, though, to watch about that performance is to realize that guy was a big star on Broadway. His name is Victor Moore in the 1920s. And so what you're actually seeing is the rhythms of Broadway in his performance. He's timing everything and kind of going slow the way that you would. Like, you could imagine something like him being big in the ways that he is and small in the ways he is. You can imagine that really connecting. It must have really connected on the stage in a way that comes off as just a completely different performing style. Like, you're not even sure what planet this guy is from when you see him in the film.
Yeah.
Did you contrast that with the much snappier, we're aware of the camera and we can do things both more subtle and more fast because we know how a camera works. Astaire and Rogers kind of like, we came up mostly with Hollywood and have adapted to it. Not that the guy didn't, but I just think you're seeing an interesting example of an old kind of rhythm. And if you watch like the really early Marx Brothers movies, they have that kind of rhythm and it's really boring. Like, it's really slow and they're pausing for laughs that don't come because you're watching a movie and
without a laugh track. And you can tell it's the kind of thing. And the Marx Brothers quickly figured that out and sped everything up and became some of the fastest performers. But anyways, I'm not criticizing Victor Moore. I think he's great in this movie, but he's just got this really weird energy.
Yeah.
And then you have Helen Broderick, and she complements it really well.
Yeah, she brings
so
her
awesome.
own weirdness.
Right. She's, oh, my sandwich got inside of you.
And then she just starts doing weird things too. That's part of the weirdness of the comedy is like, you just don't like, why is she saying these? What, they're funny, but why is she saying them right now? And why is she going off on the lady looking at her jewelry? There's just all these weird interactions. It's funny.
Yeah.
It's not funny. It's just like, you just don't know what to do. It's just not the kind of thing you see.
That's one of my favorite moments. She's walking, they've split the stairs,
right.
And they're telegraphing Rogers and Astaire later, and all that's sort of like set up, like she's talking to him and he's not there, and it's honey, I'm my own grandma. I have to keep the old lady.
What?
What are you talking about? This is a great joke. It's that sort of wry I realize that I look completely insane right now, and so I'm just going to lean into it and be even more insane.
And I'm going to let you know that I'm insulting you in some way, but you're not sure how. Like, you're actually the fool, not me.
Yeah, a little bit of that style was in Philadelphia Story when Hepburn and her sister come in and are doing the weird French stuff.
Oh,
right.
man.
Or when Stuart picks up the phone and says, "This is the voice of doom."
That's awesome.
Like kind of
my favorite.
I should be out of place here, but actually it's you.
That's right. Well, so one thing I was interested
Well, that's
in
what
is,
great comics. That's what great comics do. Is
Yeah.
they come in, they flip the narrative and control the room, and that's part of like where they come from. It is that place of I've been so insecure or whatever, or so disadvantaged. I've figured out how to flip the script on everybody all the time. That's where my comedy comes from. That's my superpower. And so
that's what Helen Broderick does really well in this movie. Is she just gives you the sense of, I know I'm not the pretty one. I know all I've got is my personality. So here, have some personality.
you're the idiot if you think
I'm the colorful sidekick.
well, so how does modern quote unquote screwball comedies, Adam Sandler? I've never seen actually a classic Sandler.
Right.
I've seen bits and I've always been like, no. But he tries to do this, right, in his own way?
Right.
Or is it different? How is it different? I mean, obvious aside from being more debauched, how is it different?
What I think that modern comedy oftentimes doesn't understand, for one thing, is that you need a straight man. And so Sandler will come in and he'll be doing shtick.
Right.
And he'll be doing shtick that could be funny, but there won't just be
somebody to play off of.
Somebody who's like, I mean, you watch a movie like this, like you watch a good comedy, you don't laugh. I mean, I know I've said this before in places, but you don't laugh because Costello is acting like a child. You laugh because we cut back to Abbott and he's like, "Ugh, why are you acting like a child?" You need to use our example. You need Lance there to be annoyed by Chip or to be put upon or to say, "Chip."
Well, but I mean, so much of modern comedy is actually about, I mean, it's the Lorne Michaels school of comedy where it's not about being funny today. It's about being funny tomorrow when you're talking with your friends.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm not giving you something that's going to make you laugh. Maybe I'll strike gold and give you something that you actually laugh at tonight on your own. But tomorrow, when you go and talk about it with your friends, you guys will all be the straight man to Adam Sandler as you perform his shtick or laugh about his shtick, as you perform Will Ferrell's shtick and laugh about his shtick. And so it's not about being funny in the movie. It's about being able to live with, you walk out of the movie with your group of friends and then you repeat the shtick and you repeat the shtick and you repeat the shtick, and it gives you something to laugh about and talk about and come back to. And then you want to go back and watch it 5 times and memorize the lines so that, because it's all part of your collective experience and it's the grease for the wheels of your relationships. Right? It's that sort of like, I'm giving you a shared experience here that's eccentric, that you can always laugh about and have in common.
Which means the more vulgar and transgressive, the better.
Exactly right. And so it just plays into that. And so it's like the more sticky and the more vulgar and the more transgressive, that's going to work and you're going to love it. And it's not because I'm actually trying to make you laugh in the theater. It's because I'm giving you something to laugh about with your friends later. And that's a way that a lot of modern vulgar comedy has gone for that, exactly that reason. It is not about the laugh in the moment. It is about giving you something to laugh about after the movie with your friends over some Busch Light.
Well, it's a sad state of affairs.
It is sad.
I think the other thing about modern comedy is it's like what
I've seen all of Adam Sandler's movies.
I mean, I grew
for
up
all of those reasons.
I grew up with
that's what I
that era of the Water Boy.
That was me and my friends.
I just never did.
That watched a lot of Saturday Night Live. Watched a lot of the Saturday Night Live style movies and actors that came out of that. And that's really what it was about. And I don't think I was ever fooled by thinking these movies were actually really funny in and of themselves. But it sure was a lot of fun with your friends to.
I can't believe he punched Bob Barker.
Yeah. And you just repeat the line, right? Like, the price is wrong. oh, there's the line. Or even just like, stop looking at me, Swan, or whatever. The dumb little,
You can do it.
you can do it all night long. You know, it's all those little lines that you can just like pull. And it's like, those lines aren't even meant to be funny in the moment, but they are meant for
just
you to
catchphrases.
use.
They're sticky. They're not funny.
They're sticky little phrases that you can use for your own comedic purposes, right? Like,
Yep.
they're giving you like your own one-liners for your own comedic moments.
Huh.
And so it's like, when you pull out, you can do it. If you pull it out at the right time, it gets everybody laughing. Everybody gets the reference. Everybody knows what you're talking about. And if you pull it at the right time, you're the hero of the moment. You don't even have to be a creative comic genius of your own. You can just like riff on Lorne Michaels style comedy.
Yep. I'm just flashing back to Austin Powers 3 and Get in My Belly and
all
this
that
kind of
stuff.
stuff.
Right? And how many times have you said or been around somebody who's said, get in my belly?
I've never said it, but me and Ben defined ourselves. We did the same thing. We just defined ourselves with our little dumb groups as we're the people that don't see movies like that.
I mean, honestly, for the most part, it never entered my. I don't know. What did I watch for comedy? I don't even know now. Mystery Men. That was
the
my
kind
thing
of guy who's
back
going
in
to
the
end up in a van down by the river, Ben.
day. You're right, Jake.
Oh man, it is.
By the river.
Yeah, and we should add, although it has nothing to do with what we're talking about, that the modern morbid habit of abusing Monty Python comes out of the way that what Jake just said. Like, Monty Python actually does have real comedy in it.
They do,
but
yeah.
people don't use it. They use it as a catchphrase generator,
Right.
For jocks to say catchphrases to each other. And it's a misuse of Monty Python, and it's demeaned the whole brand, and it's made me not even want to watch Monty Python, and shame on you.
But there
mainstream
is a
humanity.
good way of using Monty Python catchphrases for group comedy, Nathan, that helps build relationships.
That's right, Ben. It's when they're in the proper context.
That's right. All that we want to emphasize for people. If only John Cleese were here, this right now could actually become a Monty Python skit. We have a setup of some kind. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's all there.
It's all there. It's all there.
We just need John Cleese to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Easier done than said.
Hello, folks. This is me, John Cleese.
I think that's Eric Idle.
Yeah, that's Eric Idle. Oh, man, I can't stand Eric Idle. I have mixed thoughts about Monty Python. Anyway,
I wonder why.
yeah. Because I felt depressed by it growing up. Because weirdly, for such a thing that doesn't really feel mainstream, it was one of those things that all the goober faces kind of would seize on, and you know.
Yeah, me and all my goober-faced friends watched Holy Grail and stuff like that.
Mm. It's just a flesh wound. Ah!
When I really began to like it was when I really began to like Monty Python was when I was a homeschooled kid, and I think I'd seen Holy Grail and didn't know what to think of it exactly. And then a friend who had like radio, the radio play version of their skits would play them in the car.
Records, yeah.
No, that's the best actually. When you're just hearing them like radio plays is better than visual, in my opinion.
Yep. Imagine your own Monty Python.
There you
folks.
go. All right.
All right. Well, I'm glad
That was free.
I'm gladly litigated. That. I'm just gonna say it like that.
I've elevated from sneer to
From sincere to sincere to.
I don't know what that was.
this is it's like a reverse sneer, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So,
Man, it was intense.
The other thing that I just don't think modern comedy has is look at all this riffing. They're always riffing, like, I said something funny. He said, there's not a straight man, and there's not. It's like what we talk about with action movies. It's like it's all funny, so nothing's funny. There's not setups and payoffs. Like they just don't think structurally, which I think is less funny. I don't know.
Which every aspect of this movie does. So if you think even just in terms of the choreography, we're going to have several dances from the very first dance scene with Fred and Ginger. It's going to end with them going off screen behind a curtain together. And that's going to happen 3 or 4 times throughout the movie until Never Gonna Dance, where they're going to go all the way up to the moment, and then Fred's going to stop short
Yeah.
and Ginger's going to fly off past the curtain, right? Like, and that's just like setup payoff, right? And so the setup payoff is going to be in the jokes. It's going to be in the dance routine. It's going to be in the choreography, and it's all going to be building. I mean, even the lyrics of Never Gonna Dance, where he's talking about losing his penny, right? Like, how many times have you watched, or could you watch that and not actually put together?
I think this was my first time where I realized how much he was actually saying in those weird lyrics about the wolf and the everything.
Oh yeah, those are weird lyrics.
Yeah, about losing his penny. In connecting it, and then that moment in the end when he tosses his lucky quarter over his shoulder because he's finally got his penny, and the whole like lucky penny, my name's Lucky, her name's Penny, like all those like little things that like they're not little, they're really like as a writer you would feel stupid, but this is kind of all part of the structure of how you make something feel like it comes together, even when you're not going to work on things like connective tissue.
No, I take it for granted that they chose not to work on the connective tissue and that they it was because they were putting a lot of other work into other things and they thought that was the best choice. But this is a script that took time and energy and writing and rewriting, and like there's real blood, sweat, and tears in this. It's not the kind of thing that stands out like on the level of Philadelphia Story, to take our most recent example.
Right.
But this is a skillfully done souffle. This is very light, very sort of incidental, very, very wispy in its way, but intentionally so. And it takes a lot of work to make something as substantially wispy as this that really works. Okay, where were we? So we met Helen Broderick. We met the gay dance instructor. I guess we're meeting them right now. Oh, Penny.
Yeah.
He's the best.
He's great.
He's really good.
And by the way, I don't think people were idiots back then, or they didn't understand the concept of gay or anything like that. I mean,
no, it's coded.
Yeah, no, it's coded, and it's not like we're getting it past all the rubes. No, the rubes,
it's the
like
joke.
They thought it was funny.
It's
like
the joke.
Haha, this guy's a gay British guy.
Yep.
There we go. Funny. There were little effete butlers and villains often, and this guy's kind of a villain, and his closest thing the movie has to a villain besides Ricky.
Or the mobsters.
Yeah, or the mobsters. Yeah, this movie's replete with villains. It's a regular rogues gallery.
Or the dancing troupe at the beginning.
Yeah, man, those guys are jerks.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah. I like it when Fred Astaire's missed his train and they all gather around him and are sarcastically waving goodbye.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
Let's just rub some salt in the wound here. So I guess we're to the first big dance number. What's the name of the song? Pick Yourself Up.
Yeah.
Which might be my favorite in the movie, actually.
Again.
I tend to enjoy the more comedic, light things that in these kinds of movies. Donald O'Connor is my favorite in Singing in the Rain. And Pick Yourself Off is
Pick yourself off.
Pick yourself off. Take a gun. I don't know. It's a great number. And I love Astaire's elegant non-dancing. And then, man, it's worth cutting that first number, actually, for the first
Just
full statement of his brilliance, being when they have to show off for Eric Blore, the gay guy. And he has
to sit there and very impressed faces.
Right. But when Astaire finally just like snaps into action there, when he just does his first little volley of taps, like it's like, yay! It's
and then we cut to Ginger making this like I'm awed and impressed and madly in love with you suddenly.
Right. No, she does so much they know to cut to her there because, like you were saying, Ben, she is Fred Astaire's glory. Like she, just by thinking he's the coolest guy in the world, she makes us think she's the coolest guy in the world.
Yeah.
She adds so much to...
she is the coolest guy in the world.
Yep. Basically. And she makes herself look better, right? Like we all think of her as the second greatest dancer of all time, even though anybody that really knows dance, which isn't me, by the way, I'm just relying on experts here, but she's not, but she's in the conversation because she was Fred's best partner.
Yep.
Because she was a great actress and a hard worker. So there you go. I don't know if there's anything much more to say about that dance itself. It's fun. And
it makes the way that they jump over those the railing look like it's nothing, like just completely effortless.
Yeah, no.
That's one thing I always notice whenever they're swinging each other over the railing. It's like, what in the world?
Yeah, they
That's
do it a number of times, all in the same shot, and it looks completely effortless. And she does it just as well as he does. She jumps the final one.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And yeah, it's fantastic. And she has a big grin on her face the whole time. If you want to see what we're talking about in terms of her acting her way through these performances, it's really hard physical work. There's no reason that you would actually be grinning while you have to do what they're doing. Like it's put on. It's a performance, people. If you didn't know that, but they just make it look absolutely elegant. And I like Fred Astaire's acting too. He has the best "Stinka" face in Hollywood history. Probably he pulls it on Ginger a number of times. Please, teacher, teach me something. And he has this little look at me, I'm just a naughty schoolboy kind of look on his face, which he does. My favorite time in this movie is actually later when she says a fine romance. I don't remember what the line is, but she says something about you're as cold as a hot potato or something. And then we cut to Astaire and he does he looks around like, who, me? Is there someone standing behind me that you're talking to? He's really good at that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But what's gotten into you? My sandwich got into him. You're fired. Okay, Swivel Puss.
You're still fired.
Yeah, as dumb and lame and dorky as it is, their dance and the fact when the guy bursts through the fence and everything.
He lands right on top of it.
Lands right on top.
It's great.
It's great. And then you're still fired.
And then they come in and they're like, ta-da! It's pretty great.
They've been having this whole other conversation out here while they've been over there dancing. Nobody cares.
It's awesome.
So the other thing I suppose we could talk about with their dancing is it's interesting that their body types together are really interesting because she actually looks much thicker and more substantial than he does in a lot of ways. Like her shoulders are almost as broad as he is, and she's usually.
But her waist.
Yeah, her waist
is so narrow. Actually.
Yeah, it is. It is. But oftentimes she'll be sort of standing as the center of gravity, and then he'll be like this wraith kind of be zipping around her. And it's actually not. If you think about just the standard dance scene in a movie, it'll often be a guy standing and a girl being zipped around him. But they often flip that. They're both really skinny, petite kind of people, actually.
They're very slight people.
Okay, so we have the baller throwdown when he dances, and then we get some plot. They got to check into the hotel, and Penny's mad at him for some reason that I don't even. Why is Penny mad at him? I don't even remember.
Well, it's because they're going to go to the Silver Saddle or whatever, and then he stands her up for that, and
he loses his clothes to some drunk guy.
Who's hilarious.
Yeah, I like that guy.
Guy. Well, I forget what game it is that they play. The so-and-sos have always played. I can't do his voice, but he's
or something.
He's just funny.
Yeah, that guy's great. Just having those little side supporting characters come in, knock it out of the park. That's great.
These people are such little people.
Yeah.
And Fred's the tallest of them.
That's interesting. So what's Fred's height?
5'9".
5'9". Yeah.
People also search for Judy Garland, 4'11".
Wow.
Whoa.
Gene Kelly, 5'7". Ginger Rogers, 5'4". Sid Charisse, 5'7".
Crazy.
Ann Miller, 5'7". Frank Sinatra, 5'7". Audrey Hepburn, 5'7".
Weird. They're my size.
Little guys. But that Judy Garland at 4'11", she plays there's a reason she's a drag icon.
Mm-hmm.
She plays on screen like
a
substantial woman, but
I mean, she also plays the most famous little girl-ish role of all time.
Yeah, but after that, Meet Me in St. Louis.
Yeah,
anything like that.
Did you say a drag icon?
Yeah,
I don't know this.
The gay community loves Judy Garland.
Same way they love Cher.
She sang somewhere over the rainbow for crying out.
Okay, all right.
It has things. Judy Garland and Cher have the kinds of facial structures that, while Judy Garland's a pretty woman, the gay community sees on them as somebody that they can aspire to in their style and whatever.
Huh.
Right. Well, they have husky
voices,
alto voices,
strong jawlines.
Huh. I see. I did not know this.
Mm-hmm.
Now you know.
I'm enlightened.
Liz Minnelli would be the other big one, but she's a little later. So, what were we talking about?
Interesting. Oh, we were talking about the hotel stuff.
Oh, yeah. So, Fred.
Plot stuff.
There's
We
plot.
come to the hotel. They've got a, what do you call the thing where you go and
They're on strike?
an audition?
Oh, yeah. They got the audition, which they don't make it to. Fred and his friend go on strike. It makes me laugh. I don't know even why it makes me laugh, but it gets a genuine
Calls him
LOL.
comrade.
Yeah. That whole scene when they walk past each other and give the little waves, like, good to see you again on the picket line, friend, is great. And then Fred introducing to the world, the first one to sing the song, and I think the best, The Way You Look Tonight. And they kind of play it for a joke with her coming out, with her forgetting herself and coming out with the shampoo and everything. But it's a really, I think, swooningly romantic, even in spite of the fact that they cap it with a punchline. It's a nice romantic moment.
Yeah, it is. I remember seeing a meme on Facebook. The first, I'd never heard that song, but I saw the meme put part of the lyrics. What is it? Touches my foolish heart. The way that you wrinkle your nose or something touches my foolish heart. And then the bottom half of the meme was, baby, 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 oh, baby, 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 oh. And it was a contrast between old songwriting and modern romance songwriting. It's great.
That is powerful. I mean, I think in terms of romantic ballads in the Americos songbook, could you name a better one? I mean, the idea of one day when I'm old and when I'm
64.
Yeah. But it does that work, but does it better than when I'm 64. Like, it just, the idea, this is the moment that I'm going to look back on when I'm sad and old.
Yeah.
This is the look that I want to capture in my mind. This is, oh man, it's so romantic. It's just, I mean, I don't have anything profound to say about it, but it's a really romantic song, and Fred really sells it. And the other thing that's nice about Fred is
time goes by.
As time goes, time goes by would be the other one. But that one doesn't have an as iconic of a version. I mean, it's got Sam.
Yeah.
But this Way You Look has Sinatra for better or worse. And I think it's got Fred too. But maybe that's just me.
It's great.
As we've said, Rogers really knows how to soften up and look like Fred's charms are working on it. And she sells the heck out of that. Like, I was mad at him, but then he started tickling those ivories. And I'm leaving that in. That was a verbal slip up, folks. All right. The plot. Then we have more plot.
Yes, more plot. Well, now that we're back together, we have to have, and we resolved that tension, we got to have some external tension.
Yep, we got the Latin Lothario. One of the most boringly written parts that, I mean, I think it's a joke. I think the movie's actually meta and ironic and witty enough that the fact that the bad guy is so lame, I think is part of the charm, and intentionally so. And that guy,
well, yeah, you've got to not take him seriously.
Yeah,
right?
he's just
he's hilarious.
Yeah, he's great. He really sells it.
He plays like the bartender in Casablanca, since we've brought up Casablanca now. You know? But I love you.
Yeah. Yes, sir. I love you. But he pays me. He pay me. He's great. You know what else I love about this section of the movie is it starts snowing, and I just love it anytime in a movie that it snows. I think in California, where they make these things, they forget that it snows, and so it's just always kind of springtime in most movies. But anytime that they remember that a good chunk of the world has snow, it just adds a lot of evocative. I mean, this movie almost feels like a Christmas movie or something. It has that extra dash of
I always
romance.
like, even at the end when the going out and looking at the snow, I forget that it's in winter, though.
Yeah, that's true. It doesn't have that feeling, but the couple moments where it does are nice. And Astaire gets to wear that absolutely pimpin' coat with the fur and everything. It's a good look for him. I guess that's... Oh, no, we're not there yet. We have to talk about Waltz and Swing Time.
Also perfectly tailored.
Yes.
It always blows my mind. Because it's like... I mean, yeah, he's such a slight guy.
Yeah. And yet a style icon. I guess a famous fun fact about Astaire, he hated tails and coats. He did, once he stopped doing these kinds of movies, he never wore them again. But I don't know. Maybe that wasn't that fun of a fact, but it's a fact. So we're going to have some plot with the contracts and all that kind of stuff. Probably the lamest section of a great movie that doesn't have a lame section, but
I thought it was all funny. I had a good time watching it.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. In relative levels of greatness, I'd say it's probably the relatively slightest level of greatness.
The idea that, these mobsters are going to pull out a trick deck and, not catch that Pops is going to catch it and jump in and do a weird thing real quick and
the fact that they actually let that stand is pretty
amazing.
Oh yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, the fact
and then we're going to come back and Astaire's just going to let them use their trick deck and ruin everything.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. And then he owns his contract, so I guess he just owns his contract for a chunk of the movie. But yeah, then what we're really doing is leading up to the next big number, which is Waltz in Swing Time. She's wearing that iconic dress with all the feathery stuff at the bottom, and it's one of the two big, more romantic kind of ballroom numbers in the movie. Let's see, what would we say about that?
It's one of the bigger, nicer numbers, and it's also one of the most forgettable because it's not...
There's no gimmick to it.
There's nothing really special about it. It's just another... There's not a lot of tension, at play. So the first dance number between them, it's like the get to know you and, look, I'm surprising you and we're surprising everybody here. Bojangles is all kinds of gimmicky. The Never Gonna Dance is all the romantic sexual tension you could want, and this one just doesn't have anything else.
Right. Which is a little unusual for a Fred and Astaire or Fred and Astaire movie. I sort of said this earlier, but just to be absolutely clear, one of the things so Rogers and Hammerstein, people like that, innovated the completely integrated plot musical where the songs are the plot. But Fred Astaire was already heading that direction, and mostly his songs do achieve some plot purpose, sometimes very much so, like Never Let Me Dance. It tells the entire story of these characters coming together, basically. And then the rest of the plot is pretty much superfluous. But also, he would just usually find a plot reason, like even a silly one, like, well, you're going to get thrown out of your dance instruction school if we don't prove that you can dance, which is unusual. If you watch the movies that I said Ginger Rogers came up in, like Gold Diggers of 1933, the plot takes place around a Broadway review so that we can feature random numbers. A little bit more like White Christmas harkens back to this style, where it's like none of the numbers, maybe one or two of them mean something.
They don't have to, because, or even Singing in the Rain pays tribute to this kind of thing where it's like, we're going to come up with an idea for a movie within the thing that is our excuse for having this wild, colorful Broadway. Like, this is our storyboarding of...
Yeah. And so we could just basically make it... And indeed, the scene in Singing in the Rain that I always think is pretty boring, and also the raciest scene is just that long musical review section that has nothing to do with...
Yeah, it's just, we want a really colorful musical review thing in here.
Right.
And so...
Rogers and Hammerstein never would have stood for that. For them, it's almost always like...
This is part of the Dancing Cavalier, guys.
Maria and the captain, will they get together? What's the Baroness gonna... Is Judd gonna sexually assault the girl in Oklahoma? That's the big question in Oklahoma, which is a crazy, weird story. But anyway, and I, by the way, I'm not being crass about Rogers and Hammerstein. They really did think and talk in terms of sex very explicitly. Like, Sound of Music is the story of a fresh-faced young girl that shows up and a captain, and that's how they thought of it. That's how they talked about it, and it worked for them. So, it was Waltz and Swing Time. I think that maybe the only other thing I would say about that particular dance is it's a good argument for black and white. I think this whole movie is, but there is actually something that becomes more iconic when you strip away the color. Like, you're taking away one distraction, actually. It becomes just about lines and movement and not about the color, and it allows the background to fade away. And I wonder if Astaire and Rogers would have had the same impact in color, actually. I think black and white does them more favors than it doesn't do them. You can think about that, folks, and decide if you think it's true. So then we have the walk in the snow. We have Rogers in his coat We have a fine romance.
Astaire in his coat.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Astaire in his coat. And what to say about that? So that's my favorite section of the movie, actually, even though it doesn't have a big dance number or something. I really like that song. I think it's funny. And I like the back and forth chemistry. And I like the snow and what's their faces? Doc and Rick and Morty. What are their names?
Pop and Mabel.
Pop and Mabel are pretty funny in that scene. I don't know. What deep insights do you guys have into...
Let me show you where we used to go ice fishing. Oh, you said you only came here in summertime. Let me show you where we didn't go ice fishing.
Oh, man. That's great. I don't have any deep insights to say about that scene, that section, I don't think, besides it's great.
It's interesting how hard she tries.
Yes.
How hard she works.
You mean to get lucky to...
Yeah, she's going to cozy up to him and say, it's cold, and try to... She's working awfully hard. And I don't know, maybe there's nothing to say about the sexual politics and sexual dynamics of that side of things, but there is something about the less he seems to care, the less ready he seems to cave, the more she seems really interested and intrigued, and I don't know. They did not have to, what am I trying to say? They could just do human nature because they didn't have a bunch of progressive politics that they had to think about. So they could just think about, like, how are people? Mm-hmm.
And anyone who's been in any kind of relationship has felt the push and pull of, oh, he's coming on really strong, and she's kind of putting up shields, but then she falls in love, and I mean...
He's lost interest because she's put up too many shields, and now she's like, wait a minute.
And, well, I'm a woman, so I know one trick that'll probably work is getting cozy. And he's like, oh no, this trick is working. Better stand up and
flap your arms.
One thing that I love, I will say about that, the sexual politics of it, is I don't think a modern movie would acknowledge that having someone grab your arm when you're both wearing snow wear in the cold has that kind of potency. But this movie understands
that's potent enough.
That was an aggressive sexual act of what would you say? Of what?
Sorry, go ahead. It was an aggressive sexual act.
Yeah. Like that was a very...
Yep.
That was like a hardcore, she threw down the gauntlet and went after him.
She made an advance.
Right.
A real one. And the whole thing was designed for that. First it was, is he going to finally make an advance here on me? Well, I'm going to invite it. I'm going to open it up. Gee, it's cold. All right, I'm going to put my arm. I'm going to grab your arm, slip my hand in, and all right, like now I'm really out there. Yeah, and it doesn't take that much, like for her to feel really burned and rejected at that point. And I think that's right.
Oh yeah, she really put herself out there. It's just something I don't think we understand in the age of getting jiggy with it and flesh everywhere and sex everywhere. Like grabbing somebody's shoulder, like a profound thing to do. I mean, anybody I think that's actually been in any kind of a healthy dating relationship has had that moment where you both hold hands or something, and it's like, whoa, electrifying.
Yeah.
But
shockwave.
Hollywood is like, the only thing that could possibly be electrifying is
sex.
So actually, just the idea of sex, or the idea of not having sex, or the idea of could we, should we, or the touch. Yeah, a finger.
That's right.
The barrier being crossed.
And by the way,
between these two alien creatures, man and woman.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like, are they coming to colonize our planet or not? You could tell the movie's taking those things more seriously because it actually doesn't give us. It's gonna block the kiss with the door, and then it's gonna end with an embrace
that implies a kiss but doesn't show you the kiss,
right? Because they understand that's all the audience needs. Yep. And we'll talk about it when we get there, but that whole scene in her dressing room or whatever is something.
It's something. It's the scene we were talking about when we were talking about choosing the takes.
Yep. I don't know that we need to say anything else about it than that.
Anybody that's watched it knows what we're talking about.
They should.
And if not, God bless your innocence.
Yes. I may not have the first time that I saw this movie because I was younger, but I sure noticed it this time. And I'm sure if my wife had been watching
she would have noticed.
She would have noticed, and she would have noticed me notice. So, listen, this is a good lesson for storytellers, though. Even today, in our desensitized, terrible age where everything is always assaulting your sentences. Your sentences. Wow.
Boy howdy.
Boy howdy. Your senses. Less is more, and the possibility of sex or the possibility of violence so much more interesting than the reality of sex or the reality of violence.
The hints and teases, my goodness.
Look, Clint Eastwood standing in a graveyard, and he's gonna pull his gun on the bad guy, and we don't know who's gonna. So much more interesting. I mean, think about the tension that Good, the Bad, and the Ugly gets out of a simple thing like that.
Yep.
Like the build up to the violence, and then the violence is he shot the guy. But today's movies are just all like he's shooting the guy.
They don't want to. They don't find the tension interesting, or they're so inured that there's no tension that they see to explore.
Right.
But that's not normal. That's abnormal.
Right. It's just a basic rule of storytelling and a basic rule of life and a basic rule of, but tension and release, right? Like that's what you have to have built into these narratives. And so often people just don't bother with simple things like that in stories. I think it is because people are desensitized. The audience is desensitized. And so they just think they want more and more and more. But in point of fact, Rogers wearing basically modest clothes and not doing anything but suggesting everything is much more potent than, I don't know, In the Heights will be a very interesting counterpoint to this movie.
Well, yeah.
Hopefully not too interesting of a counterpoint that we feel bad talking about it, but
yeah, we're just gonna have to find out.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that at least nobody in this room questions Miranda's genius, and so we'll see.
Yeah, and I hope that his genius is such that he likes to stay on a certain side of the line, which he more or less did with Hamilton. But
yeah,
we'll find out.
There was a lot of flesh in Hamilton in the background.
There was a lot of
stuff.
There's a lot of line crossing, but there was a certain degree of calculated about it that I don't know. We're just gonna have to see.
Yeah, we'll see. But in any case, my only point is it'll be an interesting counterpoint, which is why we're doing it.
Yep.
So let's see. Yeah. Tension, release, the possibility of something. I mean, it's what they say about horror movies. The possibility of a monster, way more interesting. When you finally show the monster, that's when people lose interest in the movie. And I've actually noticed this about myself. Like, I'll be sitting in a theater. I can really get swept, especially in a theatrical setting with good sound. I can really get swept up in a movie that has like action or violence or something like that, or a scary or suspense movie. But after the first act of transgression, it's never the same. Like even in a cop thriller, let's say, if you haven't seen anyone get shot yet, I can really find myself wrapped up in the tension of when someone's going to get shot, but then, and what it's going to look like and how far they're going to go. But then once they do it, it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess that's what this director thinks a gunshot wound looks like. I know that. I don't have to dread it anymore. I can just and unfortunately, I've seen a lot of violence, and as a younger man, let myself watch a lot of things I shouldn't have. I think I'm pretty used to that kind of stuff. I'm more desensitized probably than the average person, but I can still, as long as they're not showing it to me, I can still really get swept up in it. But the second they're like, here's the monster, here's the violence, here's the sex, it becomes so much less interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I understand if you're doing a monster movie, eventually you have to show the it's not that you can't have release for the tension, but there's just an artful way to do it. And one thing that's artful is knowing that there should be some tension. Okay, I think we're basically to Bojangles of... No, actually, is there anything else we want to say about the dressing room scene? Because that's the next big kind of thing to say. There's everything we already said about it.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, I think we've been building to that moment, and now we're going to explode it, but we're going to have a really fun dance number that really meant a lot to somebody, because it's in here for a reason, and it takes up a whole lot of screen time, and
it's my favorite dance.
Doesn't have anything to do with the plot at all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, but people kind of had seen many Astaire movies by this time, and they knew that we needed the big showcase thing. And so That's what Bojangles is. It's like all right, here's what Astaire can really do. Actually, like he's not being held back by anyone but himself, and it's pretty incredible. I mean, if you don't know, he is timing his movements to. It's not like those shadows were put in later. The shadows would have been done first, and then Astaire would have had to time his movements.
He had a little screen that he was watching.
Yeah.
Wow.
And yeah, it took like 3 days or something like that for him to get it right. This is my memory.
Wow.
I watched this movie a couple months back, like back in, I think this was like our Valentine's Day movie, something like back in February or something like that. So all of the things that were really interesting back then, I looked it all up back then, and then didn't feel the need to now. Now I don't remember them all. But yeah, like he was watching this little screen and timing it, and you can actually see him see him focused in on. But yeah, everything perfectly timed. Those are his actual shadow. That's his actual shadow from other performances that he's then syncing himself up with in real time.
Yep. The only true dance partner that's a challenge for Fred Astaire is, in fact, Fred Astaire.
Yeah, and 3 days to get it right or something like that.
Yeah, for a 3 minute, basically 1 or 2 shot, maybe 4 shot sequence, they took 3 days. I do remember reading that.
Yeah,
which is insane.
I'm not surprised though.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, what a scene. It's
fantastic. And I don't know. Do you guys want to say anything else about the racial politics? I mean,
I think we said about all there is to say about it.
I'm sorry that minstrel shows were a thing, and if there's a black person that watches this and just can't get past that, and enjoy it for what it is, I have sympathy for that. I hope they have sympathy for me enjoying the incredible display of artistry that is this scene.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, Astaire did enough in his life. I think the sincerity of the tribute comes through in the performance and in some of the details, like even down to the fact, so you watch the TCM little 3 minute clip, sensitivity warning or whatever beforehand, but we get a little deeper than that, and you realize that even his costuming was the literal, and you should look this up and verify it maybe, but if I am recalling this rightly, it is the costume, it's the costuming worn, not the literal one, but the same costume worn by his mentor in his mentor's final performance. And so just like the detail is all meant to mean something to the people that made Fred Astaire who he was.
Right.
And so there's real sincerity there. However misguided you want to call it, that's up to you. I'll leave you to your own judgment about that. But yeah.
Well, the other thing, I don't know. I suppose it's probably obvious to most of our listeners, but it was maybe worth saying. I don't know. I really have impatience with people who judge history by today's standards. You watch so many movies where the character in the movie is a woman who is the one woman who in this 18th century setting believed in feminism.
Right.
It's like, except for they didn't believe in feminism back then. Like it's the Mel Gibson in The Patriot syndrome, where he's the one guy who doesn't have slaves working for him, and it's just silly. And like, well, people did have slaves. Mel Gibson's character wouldn't have known better than that. So those are fictional characters, but I think the same is true for Fred Astaire. Like, okay, we understand more about minstrel shows and their hurtfulness and all that sort of thing now. There's no reason to expect that Fred Astaire would have felt that way back then or understood those things. There's no frame, no reality where Fred Astaire would have had all that information and been able to make a better decision than the one that he did make. So let's not judge him as if he should have understood all the morals and mores of our time. Like, he wasn't living in our time. It doesn't mean we can't be happy that people don't do minstrel shows anymore. But to pretend like Fred Astaire should have somehow been more progressive than anyone was is just, I mean, I'm fumbling here because I'm saying something that should be so blitheringly obvious that I shouldn't have to say it. But
there's a New York Times article from the last 10 years called Astaire the Artist Even in Blackface that actually argues that Astaire is being subversive.
Interesting.
As opposed to, and contrasting what he does here to Jolson's The Jazz Singer, or or Gone with the Wind.
Right.
Two things that he brings up where the blackface isn't the caricature with the eyes and the lips. The background dancers are integrated white and black women. It's as much about John W. Bubbles as it is about Bill Robinson. It's just interesting. At least this article, again, this is a New York Times article. At least this article says that Astaire was being subversive and really trying to interest you in the true artistry of the black tap dancers that he admired. And so then this isn't my argument. I'm scrolling a New York Times article and just kind of pulling things where Astaire is the subversive American whose gunfire-like feet and jazzy rhythms undermine the well-ordered politeness of English high society. Its force remains shocking. The whole point is Astaire, this guy says anybody else would have played this for comedy. Mm-hmm. And nothing here is played for comedy except for the intro.
Yeah, it's almost like he's easing us into it. Like, okay, here's the caricature you all want, and now that I brought you along, look at how awesome this stuff actually is. I don't know that I quite buy that argument. I think what's happening here is we have a New Yorker progressive intellectual who really wants to like something cool. And so he's like, how can we give this one a pass? He was being subversive. I think in some sense he's probably right. Probably most of his subpoints are right. But did Astaire think to himself, you know what?
I'm gonna
this absurd
whiteness,
the whiteness,
white dancing.
yeah. No. Time to smash some white fragility with my subversiveness.
No, I think you're right, but still,
there's some good points there, and some.
Yeah, I think there's something to it.
Yeah, I think that's right.
The fact that it's the one blackface scene that nobody wants to condemn, and not just because it's awesome as a performance piece, I think says something.
Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah, the fact that I also watched the little TCM intro, and of course they get a black lady to do it so that it'll feel extra anointed as something gets passed. Yeah. But which is hilarious, by the way. I watched the Hemingway documentary. Anytime Hemingway had any kind of racially, shall we say, problematic stuff, they'd bring in the one black guy that they interviewed, and the black guy would be talking about how it actually means this or it's that or that, but it felt so condescending on the part of Ken Burns to have his one black expert that shows up every time we need someone to give Hemingway a little wiggle room. Like, okay, well, I guess we know why we're interviewing this guy. So, Ken Burns, virulent racist. That's what I want you to take away from this podcast, if nothing else. Fred Astaire, not. The only other thing I would say about Bojangles of Harlem as a sequence is I just love the fact, I already sort of said this, but I love the fact that Astaire, for all his technical discipline and mastery, is not above showmanship. Like, he understands he still needs to meet his audience halfway and give them something new and give them something exciting, and not just expect them to come all the way to him and notice what a great, awesome dancer is. He was. It's kind of like what we were talking about in our awesome Ramble in the Bronx episode. Bruce Lee is such an incredible athlete, but he never does anything to like give the audience a reason to care. He just does super quick, fast, not that impressive to look at moves. And it's like, okay, cool, great. And then you compare that to someone like Jackie Chan, who's working his bottom off, I guess we have to say on this podcast.
Yep, we do.
Working his tail off. There you go. To make it fun and exciting and interesting. Not so much in the movie that we made our good friend Jake watch.
Gotcha.
That was so awesome.
Gotcha, Jake.
Thanks, guys.
But in Drunken Master 2, the sequel, Jackie Chan's working his tail off to like, how can I make this fun? How can I make this cool? How can I make it interesting and fast and make sure that you're impressed by it? And I just think great artists do that. They find a way to meet people where they're at and to bring them along into the craft and into the discipline. And you should do that. Especially young people that think they want to be artists. Don't be above applying structure, applying showmanship, applying whatever it takes to make your audience appreciate what you're doing. Don't just expect them to bend over backwards to understand how brilliant you are. Fred Astaire didn't, so maybe you shouldn't either. Okay, so we got a bunch of plot, but I think really the only other thing to talk about is Never Gonna Dance, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So, Never Gonna Dance.
We got a whole bunch of plot, and now she's marrying Ricky Ricardo, and
Astaire is not happy.
And not getting married to nobody.
He sings a really weird song. Start to sort of warm her up.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah, with really dorky lyrics about
The wolf wasn't very smart because he didn't take my heart.
Not really sure what it means, but it's interesting. And then they start dancing, and they start dancing very slowly, and then they pick up the pace a little bit.
Yeah, these little bursts of energy that then get quelled.
And then she's like, I'm done, and she starts to walk away, and then
he's like, no, you're not.
No, you're not. And he grabs her, and then she's like, oh, I'm glad I was grabbed.
Because I really wasn't done.
Yeah, and then they really dance their hearts out, and yeah, it's something.
It's something.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I love it. I think it's great.
It's probably my favorite dance scene in all of cinema history.
It's very romantic. It's very sexually charged, as if you're someone that can pick up on subtext, I think you've understood that's what we've been saying, folks. I don't necessarily fault it for that. I mean, I think
it's a very elegant.
And it's not tawdry or puerile or vulgar.
No.
It's, I think it's, okay, they are making love to each other.
It is it is an aesthetic contemplation or depiction of sex. It is that.
But it's longing and despair and denial.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what La La Land is going to spend its entire third act trying to achieve the effect of what if and maybe never and what could have been and what would have. And they're going to do it in a 2-minute number and nail the effect way more than La La Land ever.
Yeah, no, if anything's going to make you ache with joyful longing,
it's carpool karaoke.
Yeah, it's carpool karaoke, first of all, with McCartney. But second only to that would be this. I mean, it really evokes a lot of emotions just from two people dancing. Yeah,
and you've got to actually be invested. So, I can see somebody watching that and be like, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know that you can just pull up the YouTube clip. You as silly as the setup is, you do kind of need the setup.
Yeah, and you need to be in the movie for the movie and give yourself to it.
Yes.
For it to land the way that I think it can and should and does. Otherwise, it's just like, why are these people like doing this weird thing where they're like acting sad and dancing slow and then dancing faster and then dancing slow? It just doesn't quite make sense. But yeah, if you're actually in it, it's pretty special, I think.
It also helps to have seen the movie because they are putting on and taking off the dance styles from the different dances. They're doing a little bit of like they're playing out their whole relationship kind of.
Exactly. It's like what La La Land tried to do. It's playing out everything. How it is, what would have been, how it could have.
Think about how thuddingly La La Land's like, here's a flashback of them enjoying their time together on the beach or whatever.
Yeah.
We get all that just through Fred and Ginger doing some dance moves, man.
All rehearsing what it was and what it would have been and what it could have been and
what we wish it was. And yeah, it's pretty great. I think, and as far as the sexual tension of it all, I think if you're going to allow that art can handle the subject of sex at all, then this is one of the ways you could maybe argue is a fine way to do it. Well, I would say. I mean, if you're okay with Shakespeare writing sonnets about sex, if you're okay with King Solomon writing a book about sex, if you're okay with, which I got you have to be okay with that. If you make room for any sort of aesthetic contemplation of the subject of sex, then you would have to make room for the idea that there might be an elegant, non-vulgar, non-pornographic, non-tawdry way to do it. And then once you've made space for that, you could at least make an argument that this is that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll let the listener make their own judgments about that, but I'd like to at least make space for the conversation. We don't have to litigate. It.
Good thing. That would be gross if we had to do
that. So I have two quotes I want to read. One is they're both from Roger Ebert, but one of them is Roger Ebert quoting Ginger Rogers, who he interviewed in, I think, 1983, just at the time that John Travolta's awesome sequel to Saturday Night Fever called Staying Alive had come out. And Roger Ebert asked Ginger Rogers if she had seen Staying Alive, which was the current popular dance movie of its day. She said she had, and Roger Ebert asked her what she thought of it. And she said, "The young people today, they think they can dance with their faces." Which is pretty great. I guess there's a scene in Staying Alive where there's mist on the floor. There's like what is it called?
Fog.
The fog on the floor, a fog machine. And so you can't actually see their feet. And Ginger Rogers was very unimpressed with John Travolta doing dances where you couldn't actually see his feet. And then I liked this other quote. This is from Roger Ebert's Great Movies review of Swing Time. He says, "When you see anyone, an athlete, a musician, a dancer, a craftsman, doing something difficult and making it look easy and joyful, you feel enhanced. It is a victory for the human side over the enemies of clumsiness, timidity, and exhaustion." I think that sums up the joy of Michael Jordan and many athletes like that. But
and the thing that young athletes don't understand is they want to look cool, so they try to make easy things look hard.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of bad acting is trying to make easy things look hard.
Yep.
But anybody who knows real artistry knows that it's all about making hard things look easy.
Mm-hmm. It's really true. It's about finding the simplest way from A to B. And the simplest way is usually not, "I killed them. I killed them all. They're like animals."
And I killed them like animals.
And not just the men.
The women.
Oh, man.
And children.
Now, I defy anyone to make that dialogue look easy, but if you had to do it, it would probably be a little closer to, "I killed them, Padme. I
killed them all."
I mean, I don't know how you do it. I don't think I could make that dialogue play, but...
And not just the men.
Yeah, I think that's the way. Make it as simple, strip it down as much as possible.
Yeah. They're like animals. But I mean, if you really do it, then you're going to get psychopaths, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
Which is what you want. He's Darth Vader.
Darth Vader.
Yeah.
They're like animals. And I killed them like animals. As deadpan as possible. I think not touching it.
That actually could play. Probably, for all I know, Hayden Christensen did that, and George
Lucas was like, "No.
The babies in the audience aren't
Brother.
He's controlled by his emotion, so it's got to be emotional."
All right, Hayden. I don't think you understand the poetry of the
Jimmy
trilogies.
Stewart. Nathan's Jimmy Stewart is
Jimmy Stewart meets Kermit the Frog is how my George Lucas. I mean, I just think anyone that does an impression of George Lucas is contractually obliged to go into this frog register. All of which is very important to the discussion of Swing Time.
Swing Time.
Well, guys, anything else you want to say about this wonderful movie? One of the best from Hollywood's golden age, in my humble opinion.
Nope.
I don't think so.
Talked about all the fun supporting characters. Yeah, it's great. The music is great. Jerome Kern. I think I might have said Irving Berlin on the 28 Movies podcast. If so, I apologize. It was a different Jewish son of an immigrant who wrote the American Songbook. Those guys are all kind of the same, though.
One Oscar or two for this movie.
Nominated for both The Way We Do It and The Way You Look Tonight.
The Way You Look Tonight. This is how we do it.
Yep. Wow. And Staying Alive. Also nominated for Staying Alive.
Wow.
What's the other song? Fine Romance, obviously, also got nominated. But Way You Look Tonight won, obviously, because why wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Although, man, Fine Romance is probably better than most songs that have ever been nominated for an Oscar. So this movie's got two stone cold classics in it. And Pick Yourself Up, I think, is a classic. I mean, it's not like a classic that everybody loves. Like the other two are, but man, it's a great little song.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got the weird one about, what does he say? Who is it that made him do it? The Wolf? Or
The Wolf did something.
The Wolf stole my heart. Yeah. There's a reason that one didn't enter the American Songbook. Jerome Kern, most famous for Showboat and for Old Man River and that kind of stuff. He also wrote a ton of songs that you'd recognize that ended up in the canon or whatever, but that's kind of his claim to fame nowadays. We don't really, besides Showboat though, we don't really do any of his musicals anymore because they were all kind of that old-timey review style. So he's not quite as well known as an Irving Berlin or some of the other guys. But yeah, Jerome Kern, a good songwriter. All right. Anything else? Ben, how many lucky pennies out of 7 do you give to Swing Time?
Yeah, 6 or 7.
6 or 7?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe DACA lucky penny for the immodesty that we alluded to.
Yeah.
Though I'm left without a penny, the wolf was discreet. He left me my feet, and so I put them down on anything. But the labelle, la perfectly swell romance, never gonna dance, never gonna dance, only gonna love, never gonna dance. Have I a heart that acts like a heart, or is it a crazy drum beating the weird tattoos of the St. Louis blues? Have I 2 eyes to see your 2 eyes, or see myself on my toes, dancing to radios, or Major Edward Bose? Though I am left without a penny, the wolf was discreet. He left me my feet, and so I put them down on anything but the labelle, the perfectly swell romance. Never gonna dance, never gonna dance, only gonna love, never gonna dance. I'll put my shoes on beautiful trees. I'll give my rhythm back to the breeze. My dinner clothes may dine where they please, for all I really want is you. And to Groucho Marx I give my cravat. To Harpo goes my shiny silk hat. And to heaven I give a vow. To adore you, I'm starting now. To be much more positive that, though I'm left without my penny, the wolf was not smart. He left me my heart. And so I cannot go for anything but the labelle, la perfectly swell romance.
Labelle? What?
That's what it says. Never gonna dance, never gonna dance. Only gonna love you. Never gonna dance.
I hear the sound of deadline pressure. It just reminds me of certain skits I've written.
I guess that works. It's just, yeah. I think you might be right, Ben. I don't know why anyone would intentionally throw all those metaphors into a Cuisinart and
My goodness.
hip puree or whatever.
To Groucho Marx, I give my cravat. My cravat. To Harpo goes my shiny silk hat.
Oh, my.
I mean, I know the Marx Brothers, but that reference doesn't make sense. Maybe it's possible, I suppose, that all this stuff landed better then and the references made sense, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think he just says a bunch of nonsense and then they dance.
Never gonna.
It's remarkable that it works as well as it does when you think about it.
Yeah.
Well, the melody works really great for that final
Yes.
dance when they move to the orchestral part.
It's great. Jake, how many lucky pennies out of 7 do you give to Swing Time?
7.
There you go. I'll go ahead and I'm going to give it 1 lucky penny. I think this movie is a total waste of time. And you should not watch it. Okay, we're talking about In the Heights next time, folks, if you want to be prepared for
There was a number that was cut.
Yeah, the first, I think Astaire was gonna have a...
Okay, yeah.
We see the end of it and kind of hear it, and I think Kern wrote a song for it, too.
It's not in the cards. It's the name of it.
Makes sense. Setting up this guy's lucky. And it makes sense of the fact that we get so little introduction of Astaire in this movie. They kind of just, hey, it's Astaire. There he is. Hey, speaking of people who need no introduction, let's give out a Patron Choice Award of Awesomeness to our good friend, Anthony D. Ben, what kind of dance moves do you suppose Anthony D. busts out?
Anthony D. has energetic and virile dance moves. Maybe actually a little more like Gene Kelly than Fred Astaire. That's what I think.
He'll jump up onto a lamppost and hold it and swing out and
Go skipping through the rain.
That's right. That's right.
There's nothing more virile than skipping through the rain.
Yep.
Yes,
It's a wonderful feeling.
It is a wonderful feeling.
We know it. We know it well here at Sanity at the Movies.
I'm skipping in the rain, just a skipping. Jake, what kind of dance moves do you speculate that Anthony D. brings to the table?
I think he's probably really great at the crip walk.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. I think he can do the truffle shuffle. No, I mean, probably anybody can do the truffle shuffle, I guess. No, I think what's the thing that Michael Jackson does? The
moonwalk.
Yeah, I think he moonwalks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's more on the Astaire side of things.
Yeah. Well, I think There's a good argument to be made, as we talked about before, that Michael Jackson was the heir. The Fred Astaire. Leave him laughing. That's my philosophy. So someone should say something funny.
Make him laugh. Make him laugh.
Make him laugh. No.
Make him laugh.
Let's not
and
ruin this.
It's another Singing in the Rain reference.
Yeah, I know, but this is not our Singing in the Rain podcast.
Well,
we're canoodling in the snow, or failing to canoodle in the snow. If anything.
Well, let's pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off.
Start all over again.
Chip?
Oh, man. Work like a man inspired. Yes, we will be doing the Ville version of Swing Time. That'd be fun to... I think we got to do our It's a Wonderful Life takeoff first, though, probably.
Oh, yeah.
Chip is Astaire, Sparky is Pop.
Yep.
Christmas Carol.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's right. The Christmas Carol.
Chip is Astaire, Sparky's Pop. I think we have to finish casting this. I guess, what's her face?
Sparky's Pop.
Chip's girlfriend would have to be Ginger.
Right, Claire.
Claire, yeah.
Right.
And that just leaves Mabel.
Erica, of course.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, actually. On some level. Kind of may
level of total insanity.
may somewhat capsize the boat. But
maybe Matt and Erica can be Pops and Mabel.
All right.
Oh, that makes sense.
All right, that's good.
And then Sparky can be the owner of the dance.
Yes.
You're still fired.
That's right. That's right. And
we probably have a character.
Seamus can be Ricky Romero.
There you go. That worked well. And
Ollie's the mobster.
Yeah, maybe
Fighting
so.
over Seamus's contract.
Maybe so, yeah.
And we do have our great character of Gangster Boss lurking in the wings from
That's true. Very true.
the most recent episode of The Ville. So I suppose we could bring him. Okay, well, I'm glad we figured that out.
Yep.
I'm glad we Litag... I can't even spell the word. Litigate.
D.
It. Yeah. All right. Thanks for listening, folks. We'll be back with In the Heights. And I don't know, maybe we'll go nuts and do some Singing in the Rain not too long from now. Although, if we're going to do another musical, we kind of have to get the old West Side Story in sometime soon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, which I've never seen. Look forward to it.
I haven't seen it since high school.
I've seen it literally tens of times. So.
Probably seen it once, maybe twice.
It's quite good. It's also quite long and ends on a rather depressing note, which I don't think is a spoiler if you know the story of Romeo and Juliet. Okay, well, that's that. Thanks for listening, folks. Go to patreon.com/Sanity at the Movies to support this podcast, to hear reviews of the Clone Wars. If you like Swinging in the Rain or Swing Time, whatever this movie is, you'll love our reviews of Clone Wars. Basically the same thing. Dave Filoni is the Fred Astaire of Star Wars executives.
He understands structure and fun beats.
Showmanship, rhythm, humility, hard work.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I actually was making those parallels in my mind while we were talking about it earlier.
That's amazing.
Because we watched an episode of The Bad Batch last night, the latest episode of The Bad Batch, and wouldn't you know it, our group of misfit ranger-style heroes who have this child they have to protect got caught in a scenario where they had to go on a mission to save another child that turned out to be the Rancor from Jabba's palace. And it was all about just like every Mandalorian episode and every episode of the Clone Wars, and it was still fun and sweet and cool with a cool monster fight in it.
Cool.
Little 22-minute episode. It's like, yeah, like he does the same things. He has about 3 or 4 tricks, but they're good tricks and they're fun.
Yeah. He's the best. And you can hear us say a lot more about that at patreon.com/Sanity at the Movies. You can also support this great show. And yeah, I think that's all you need to know.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know.
That's all you need.
All right, folks. Until next time.
Never gonna dance.
Never gonna dance.